Hello and welcome back to A Course in Miracles workbook for students. We are on lesson 70. My my salvation comes from me. Number one, all temptation is nothing more than some form of basic temptation not to believe the idea for today. Salvation seems to come from everywhere except from you. So too does the source of guilt. You see neither guilt nor salvation as in your own mind and nowhere else. When you realize that all guilt is solely on the invention of your mind, you also realize that guilt and salvation must be in the same place. In understanding this, you are saved.
Number 2, the seeming cost of accepting today's idea is this. It means that nothing outside of yourself can save you. Nothing outside yourself can give you peace. But it also means that nothing outside yourself can hurt you, or disturb your peace, or upset you in any way. Today's idea places you in charge of the universe where you belong because of what you are. This is not a role that can be partially accepted, and you must surely begin to see that accepting it is salvation.
I love that.
Hmm.
Number three, it may not, however, be clear to you why the recognition that guilt is in your own mind entails the realization that salvation is there as well. God would not have you put the remedy for the sickness where it cannot help. That's pretty profound.
Yeah.
That is the way your mind has worked, but hardly his. He wants you to be healed, so he has kept the source of healing where the need for the healing lies. Beautiful.
You have tried to do just the opposite, making every attempt, however distorted and fantastic it might be, to separate healing from the sickness for which it was intended, and thus keep the sickness. Your purpose was to ensure that healing did not occur. God's purpose was to ensure that it did. How interesting is that?
Right? Today we practice realizing that God's will and ours are really the same in this. God wants us to be healed, and we do not really want to be sick because it makes us unhappy. Therefore, in accepting the idea for today, we are really in agreement with God. He does not want us to be sick, neither do we. He wants us to be healed, so do we.
Mm-hmm. We are ready for 2 longer practice periods today, each of which should last some 10 to 15 minutes. We will, however, still let you decide when to undertake them. We will follow this practice for a number of lessons, and it would again be well to decide in advance when would be a good time to lay aside for each of them, and then adhering to your own decisions as closely as possible.
Begin these practice periods by repeating the idea for today, adding a statement signifying your recognition that salvation comes from nothing outside of you. You might put it this way: my salvation comes from me, and it cannot come from anywhere else. Then devote a few minutes with your eyes closed to reviewing some of the external places where you have looked for salvation in the past, in other people, in possessions, in various situations and events, and in self-concepts that you sought to make real. Recognize that it is not here and tell yourself, my salvation cannot come from any of these things. My salvation comes from me and only from me.
Mm-hmm. Number 8. Now we will try again to reach the light in you, which is where your salvation is. You cannot find it in the clouds that surround the light, and it is in them you have been looking for it. It is not there. It is past the clouds and in the light beyond. Remember that you will have to go through the clouds before you can reach the light. But remember also that you have never found anything in the cloud patterns you imagined that endured or that you wanted.
9. Since all illusions of salvation have failed you, surely you do not want to remain in the clouds looking vainly for idols there, when you could so easily walk on into the light of real salvation. Try to pass the clouds by whatever means appeals to you. If it helps you, think of me holding your hand and leading you, and I assure you this will be no idle fantasy.
Wow. Number 10. For the short and frequent practice periods today, remind yourself that your salvation comes from you, and nothing but your own thoughts can hamper your progress. You are free from all external interference. You are in charge of your salvation. You are in charge of the salvation of the world. Say then, my salvation comes from me. Nothing outside of me can hold me back. Within me is the world's salvation and my own.
What an
Wow,
incredible chapter.
that's
Lots of
amazing.
words, but really it's quite simple.
Yes.
Remember who you are, and
Hmm.
that salvation only comes from here. There's nothing, my little mouse isn't going to save me. My little postcard bookmark isn't going to save me.
Yep.
It's all like our crazy, insane thoughts. Again, no judgment. It's just our thoughts are tortuous hell. And
You
we're
know,
just being reminded that our salvation comes from us.
yep.
It means nothing outside of yourself can save you. Nothing outside of you can give you peace. But it also means that nothing outside yourself can hurt you or disturb your peace or upset you in any way.
Uh-huh.
Today's idea places you in charge of the universe where you belong because of what you are.
Wow.
God would not have put the remedy for the sickness where it cannot help.
Right. We're talking an awful lot about clouds and light and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I've often, over this past year, thought to myself, I wonder if the sun itself is God. Because there's so much in our world right now that keeps us either fearful of the sun, protected from the sun, um,
Yeah.
y-
Sunglasses,
sun
sunscreen,
blocking
the clothing that's SPF and all that.
the planes flying by, dropping whatever they're trying to do with the geoengineering and blocking out the sun. Like there's a real attempt to keep us from the sun. We think
Hmm.
about global warming. What's the first thing you do? You think about the sun as an enemy. It's warming the planet too
Right.
much. And so I've just thought, you know what? I don't, I mean, it's just
We don't know,
a
right?
theory, of course.
It makes sense.
But
We need the sun. If we didn't have sun every day, we would not eat.
yes, we would just
And
shrivel up and die.
despite my recent fast, we still need to eat.
Yep,
And maybe our food wouldn't be as yummy, or maybe it wouldn't even grow.
it wouldn't even grow.
We we do have funky lights, like my tower garden has lights that work
Hmm.
that help
But
it grow, but maybe it doesn't have the same nutrients, which is why it requires that special food.
right.
The lights help it to the food, like food to reach for it, right? Which
Yeah,
is what makes, I don't know if that's the growing process or not,
yeah,
but the
yeah,
nutrients come
absolutely.
basically from the sun.
Yeah,
That's
and
why
there's so
grounding and
many,
all those things are so important.
absolutely. Yeah, and because there's that energy conversion in the earth from the sun.
Hmm.
And the other
Hmm.
thing is we try, like we was talking about the artificial light, the grow lights, but there's so
Yeah.
many like tanning beds. There's so many artificial ways to, get sun safely or get sun this way, but it isn't the
Yeah.
sun.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking,
Right.
what if that big ball of fire up there is God?
Right. Because
Yeah,
it's always there.
it is always
And
there.
the moon might even be a space station. Like we're hearing
Ex-
all kinds of crazy shit about that.
Totally, totally.
And we have to just trust scientists that say that there's something out there,
Hmm.
like other planets and things, which I don't even know if there is, but we don't
Yeah.
know.
No, we don't. We
We
don't know
don't know.
nothing. But they sure like to disconnect us from the sun on so many levels,
Yeah.
physically, mentally, danger, danger, danger,
Yeah.
right?
Putting all that fear in us to not to lay in the sun. I don't
Yeah.
listen.
Crappy
I go
sunscreen
anyway.
if you're going to,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Sun
the
sunglasses, don't let it in your eyes, but we know that that's
right.
actually a good thing.
Yeah, I don't wear them anymore now that I know that.
Yeah.
Right. one of my students has these very funky sunglasses, and it's like leopards, little leopards holding it all together. I don't know,
Oh,
whatever. They're flashy, funky.
yeah.
And I said something about, you don't need to wear sunglasses. Your body knows how to regulate itself if you look at the sun in the morning. I mean, you don't look at it at noon and after, probably.
Right. Yeah.
But when I
You just
walk
get
in the
that
morning, I
healing
always
red
sun
light.
gaze,
Yeah.
and your body knows. But
Hmm.
also, the scientists also say if you've burnt many times, well, in my childhood, I probably burnt every single day,
Yeah, same.
and I should be riddled in cancer then,
Right.
because the likelihood if you've had been burnt more than 6 times in your life, well, how about
Yeah.
600? I was
Yeah.
pasty white when I was little.
Yeah. Yeah, I grew up
So,
in Oyama and Winfield. I mean, that's all you did was lay at Kaloya Beach, and
yeah.
it was so burned one day I couldn't even walk. My feet were fried.
Oh,
I was
no.
I was sitting at the dinner table on the deck with a bowl of ice water for my feet to sit in because it was just brutal.
Oh, wow. What's funny, I never burnt my feet, like even the top
Mm,
of my feet. My hands were never got sunburnt. It was always my torso.
yeah,
I don't even
yeah.
remember my legs being that bad. I think they were, because I
Mm.
remember, I'm sure they were. Noxema was the cure for that, right?
Oh, I
My
love
poor mom
that.
would cover my whole body with Noxema.
Oh, it smells so good.
But you might have something there. We don't know.
Right? It's just a
We don't
thought
know.
because boy, they sure villainize the sun.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so, yeah.
Well, in the UK, they were saying that
Mhm.
they were trying to do stuff to hide the sun. Well, of course, with the geoengineering, they can do all that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah. But then they're also
yeah,
going ahead with this big green green plan to make sure everybody does solar. So how does that work? You've got
right,
solar panels and they're trying to block the sun? That doesn't seem like a good
right.
recipe.
Well, that doesn't make any sense now, does it?
No, not at all. People really have to start waking up because these conundrums and these um, conflicts are right out there for you to see.
Yeah.
They're so
Well, it's
obvious.
funny. When I walked yesterday, the geoengineering in the sky was just so obvious. I think at this point they're just being ridiculously obvious,
Yeah, yeah,
because it was two wide strips. Well, those aren't flight paths. I mean, I'm preaching to the choir here, but it was really wide, and then there was one over here, and then one, and it was almost all in alignment, like
yeah.
where parts meet.
Hmm.
There were other, it was like, are you kidding me? This is like tic-tac-toe in a perfect format, right?
Yeah, yeah. We had a big X over us yesterday.
Yeah. You have to know you have to know.
Yeah.
But anyways, and does it really matter? Like, I'm tired. Does
Yes,
it really?
exactly. There's part of that we just have to let that go.
Well, and
We
I
have
believe at this point they're spraying good stuff, because if they're making the path so obvious, they have to be spraying something good.
right.
So I'm choosing to see that they're spraying something good. They're trying to revitalize us and
Yep.
restore the earth. And
Yep.
the earth is capable. Really, the earth can't handle all the shit we do.
Yeah, it's just an absolute lie.
I I still recycle. I still do all that stuff, and my heart's in the right place. But
Of
is it
course.
making a real difference? Who the fuck knows?
Well, not when they send all our recycling plastics over to third world countries and it just ends up sitting on their planet, part of the planet, or getting
Right?
dumped in the ocean, right? We
Yeah,
got to find ways to not use, if you can't recycle the plastic, because there's so many numbers that there's only like two or three of them that actually get recycled into something else. The rest of it
yeah.
just goes into the garbage, into the landfill.
Well,
And
and
so
maybe that's what all the natural disasters are, the floods. They take them where they're supposed to go. Or the
cleansing.
fires. They take it and they take all the, and
Hmm.
the waste in the sky and whatever. It has to go somewhere.
Yep.
Just because the climate change, what was it? They had to reduce emissions in certain
Mm,
industries. So
right.
instead of, the big smoke coming out of the smokestacks, they had to do something with that.
Hmm.
Well, it's already there, so it must have been used somehow
Yeah.
by the earth. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter what we do, it still gets used and like the earth is, we don't have to worry about the earth. We can do our part
Hmm.
because it feels good
Yeah.
or not. Like
Right.
when I go, we were in Vancouver for a couple of days when the family were, Lass's family were here.
Yep.
I don't know where everything goes, so everything went in the trash.
Yep. Yep. That's probably the best. I put a lot more in the trash now because I just don't believe in the recycling situation. So
Yeah.
I basically just recycle what I know is getting recycled.
Well, and do we know that?
Cardboard, glass, well, things that are like tin, aluminum.
We don't know. We really honestly don't know. I don't know if you have that down there, but we have a composting garbage pickup. It goes to a great big field, no different than the landfill, and it's because people put plastic in.
Mm.
It's the
Mhm.
same as a garbage dump.
Yeah.
If you go to, it's called Spa Hills Compost or something, I would never buy compost from them.
Mhm.
So what are they doing with it?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
what's the point of it?
Yeah. They're
You
just
know,
yeah.
you're using a plastic compostable. Please give me a break. Like,
Yeah.
how stupid do you think we are?
Mhm.
So a lady I know drives by it every day, and there's lumber, there's plastic, there's all kinds of garbage in it.
Mhm.
I grew up compost. Well, we didn't compost as kids, but when I was younger, I composted in a variety of places.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know what goes in compost and what doesn't go in compost.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Would
do
you
my
put,
own compost.
why would you put weeds in your compost? That makes no sense.
No, it doesn't. Yeah.
And that's
Unless you
what my
think
neighbors do.
unless
They
you're
shove that bin full of their weeds and their tall grasses. I don't want to eat your tall grass, even.
no, exactly.
It's ornamental. I don't think it's food, right? If you put
Right.
food, things you would, anyway, preaching to the
Yeah.
choir here, someone with a huge garden. But yeah, it's just like, what?
Yeah.
It just makes no sense. And people blindly put all kinds of shit in there, their coffee cups, because they compost, and
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my God. Anyways, here we are. Maybe the sun is our solution. I don't know.
Right?
But back to today's lesson after our
Mhm.
segue. My salvation comes from me. It means
Yep.
nothing outside of yourself can save you. Nothing outside of you can give you peace. And that's so true.
Mhm. God would not have put the
Therefore,
remedy for the sickness where it cannot help.
yeah,
It's so
yeah,
simple. Duh.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
In one of my bedtime meditation,
Mhm.
it does come to an affirmation, and it says, I am whole, and I've added, and healthy. So every
Yes.
day I say, I'm whole and healthy.
Absolutely.
I'm whole and healthy. It just
Yeah.
is. I did a
Yep.
fast to try and curb my ridiculous external addiction, right?
Mhm.
To the stuff that's no good for me. Let's go back to the food, right? What am I
Yeah.
putting in my body that is, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Um, on the Inspired channel, Jean Nolan's first mantra was, "We're healthy, wealthy, whole, and free."
Is that a YouTube channel?
Yeah, Inspired.
Inspired.
Yeah. I'll send
Okay.
you something from him. And now the new one is Out of the Matrix and Into Prime Reality.
Nice.
Yeah,
Maybe the Matrix isn't really what it seems to be. Maybe the Matrix is our crazy thoughts.
for sure. Yeah, that's part of it for sure. We're just as connected to our outside surroundings as we are to our inside surroundings, right? We are
Yeah.
all of it.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
Since all illusions of salvation have failed you, surely you do not want to remain in the clouds. I like that
Surely.
because that cloud thing was
Yeah.
only yesterday. Reach
Yep.
out and touch them in your mind, brush them aside with your hands, feel them resting on your cheeks and foreheads and eyelids as you go through them. Go on, clouds cannot stop you. Yeah.
Mhm.
But, they can be like, it's a good comparison, to just let it all flow by
Yes.
or to
Yep.
kind of wash you away, wash it
Mhm.
away.
Mhm.
My salvation comes from me. It cannot come from anywhere else. My salvation comes from me and only from me. It is past the clouds and in the light beyond. That's another reminder from yesterday.
Mhm.
Remember that you will have to go through the clouds before you can reach the light. But
Yeah.
remember also that you have never found anything in the cloud patterns you imagined that endured or that you wanted,
Mhm.
right? Since all illusions of salvation have failed you, surely you do not want to remain in the clouds, looking vainly for idols there, when you could so easily walk on into the light of real salvation.
Yeah, that
Try
means
to,
to me we just keep looking for ways to outsource our salvation, right?
well, it
We're
also
looking for
means just,
outer.
yeah, we stop looking externally. It's all
Yeah.
here. But in the symbolism, walk through the clouds and know that you are the light, that
Mhm.
you are whole and perfect,
Yep.
that you are always at peace.
Yep.
Doesn't feel like it like yesterday. I did not feel
Mhm.
like I was at peace or
Mhm.
the day before.
Yep.
Um, Today's idea places you in charge of the universe where you belong because of what you are. Yeah. Well, we can do this. We can do this lesson and have fun
Absolutely.
doing it and love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You bet.
So I'll just end the recording there.